And we welcome you to the Real Estate Radio Show featuring Chris Lofthus of the Chris Lofthus Group at Keller Williams Realty. We hope you are having a fabulous Memorial Day weekend wherever you are across the great state of Idaho and listening online as well. As always, the star of our show, Chris Lofthus, who most get ready to go on a big, long 3-day weekend. This, my friend, is harvest time for you. You're going to be a busy man.
Yeah, we're expecting to have a really busy weekend this weekend, and of course, in our industry, there's no way we could take off on a weekend like this because we have so many people visiting. Checking Boise out and checking our state out in general, all the way from Coeur d'Alene down to Boise, and possibly thinking about making a move for their family.
Chris, I think that's so important when I hear you mention Coeur d'Alene, which is my hometown. When people call or they say, hey, my mom lives in Coeur d'Alene, she's going to move down here, I've got a friend moving in from Utah or California, wherever.
Sure.
You're really good at that because you've been through that process both professionally and personally about helping folks who are a long ways away find a home here.
Well, yeah, and that's part of what we kind of do when we deal with people because of the fact that we have been through it. I've been through it. There's other people that I work with that have been through it, and we know it's a process because you just can't, you just don't show up and in Boise and buy a house. I mean, it has happened. We've had people do it, but it's kind of one of those things where people are looking to relocate and they're looking at other areas. And we talked about when I moved here, we looked at Boulder, and I was a little too liberal for my taste. But the fact is, I started eliminating some of these places one by one, came to Boise, but it took us 3 trips to Boise before we actually wrote an offer on a house. So we loved it. We came back to make sure we loved it, and then I made a couple trips back, but then eventually brought my wife, and we ended up writing an offer and buying a house. And that's kind of what we do because the process is so difficult and it's stressful. You're bringing all your kids, you're moving your kids out of another area, and we try to plug all those little holes so that we make the transition really smooth.
Yeah, I always describe you, Chris, and your group as peace of mind because a lot of times when you're making transition like that, either one of the two parties is working, the other one's taking care of whether it's the family or the details back at home. And it's nice to go, hey, I trust Chris and his team. I don't have to worry about some shenanigan going on. I can just say, hey, take care of all the details, will you?
Yeah, well, we have clients right now. We were just talking to Gerri, Kelley, who's a client specialist, and she's going to be on here in a little bit on the show. But we have these people that come in, they're professionals, and, from anything from doctors, people going to work at Micron or where Big Al's, whatever's coming, down the pipe. But what they do is they come in and this is what we're seeing. This is why I'm seeing these real estate, properties owned by banks and short sales kind of going to the wayside a little bit because we have a lot of buyers, maybe a husband or a professional wife or whatever, come in. And they say, I don't have time to have a house with problems. I don't have time to move into a house when there's a bunch of leaks or whatever. So we're seeing a lot of people lean more towards, we don't want to buy distressed properties anymore. I want to know the house has been taken care of. I want to know the irrigation's been blown out. I want to know that there's a family living in that house. And so I think the trends of all the bad inventory going away, and that's why I see the inventory levels the way they are.
You're listening to the Real Estate Radio Show featuring Chris Lofthus of the Chris Lofthus Group at Keller Williams Realty. If it is the first time you've tuned into the program, yes, we certainly talk about real estate, but we also talk about turning a house into a home. Last week, you had some great individuals that came on in terms of getting blinds for our home, shutters, whatever you might look at along that line. Erica came on. We have home lenders. I'm not sure if I'm keeping all your partners in business because Tom came out and redid our landscaping, and I've got Kurt looking at refinancing my home. So I'm trying to figure out how this is working, but I think that's a good snapshot, Chris, in terms of that's what this program's about.
Yeah, it is. We talk about that. You just mentioned that last portion about Kurt and talk about refinancing, and it's becoming not really so much of an issue, I would say, as opposed to a mindset. For Americans, we talk about interest rates being the lowest they've ever been historically, and they're just ridiculous. I mean, they're so low. It's amazing where they were 5 years ago. They're at 7%. Now you're under 4% for a 30-year fixed loan, and you're looking at it and you're saying, okay, well, the only conclusion I can come up with in it is that people are getting used to it. and they think it's going to last forever. They think the rates are going to be low. They think that houses are going to remain cheap forever. And the fact of the matter is hyperinflation is going to set in. And when hyperinflation does set in, which I'm not here to tell you that it's going to set in 18 months, 2 years. But the fact of the matter is we all know, anyone out there that studies this stuff understands that hyperinflation is coming. And Americans and people living in Boise in general, or think they're buying or selling a house, or people relocating, that really should stick in the back of their mind that these rates are not going to stay low forever.
Chris, in my mind, from what you've talked about on the show for the last 6 months, now seems like that perfect storm where a year, 2 years, even 6 months from now, you're going to look back and go, I wish I would have listened to Chris and either purchased or put my home on the market then, based on everything, as you said, the low interest rates, the opportunities that are out there. I'm talking about right now.
Sure, and you're exactly right. And when you look at a lot of consumer confidence issues, and I think a lot of that, kind of basically weighs on that. So the consumer confidence thing, and you look at people and you say, if you're going to make a move, I would make a move. If you're going to sell, great. But, don't stay out of the real estate game. Stay in it. Don't try to guess the market. Everyone always tries to guess it. Back in the day when the market went crazy, I remember sitting around talking to people, and they just everyone thought they were just a real estate genius because they happened to buy a house and it went up by, 12% a year for 3 straight years in a row. But everyone went through it. So, I tell people all the time, I said, look, don't try to guess the market. But the fact of the matter is, this is not the time. If you're going to sell your house, that's great, sell it. But you should kind of, and that's what we'll talk to Gerri a little bit about here in a second. But they really should be looking where they're going. Where are they going to land next? Because don't go sell your house and try to jump out of the market and think you're smarter than the market, and hold your money on the sidelines for 6 to 8 months, because it can change, and it can change dramatically. It's happened historically.
If you want to reach out to Chris, I'd encourage you first to go to his website. It is chrislofthus.com, CHRISLOFTHUS. That's chrislofthus.com. You can send an email at contactus@CLG, as in Chris Lofthus Group, Eagle.com. And Annette, who puts our show together every week. Also, you can start with her at 350-6228, 350-6228. You can reach out to Chris Lofthus Group at Keller Williams Realty in Boise. Now, Chris, one of the suggestions you made to me was maybe keep an eye on some property out there, and a year or 2 or 3 years down the road, you can also build on that. So maybe you're not in a situation where you say, hey, I've got to sell today. I mean, there's a bunch of options that you put out that I went, well, gee, Chris, I didn't even think of that. You are the expert.
Well, that's exactly, you're exactly right. And that's why we work as a group, and that's why we work as a team. And when you look at it and you say, like you and Claudia, you said, hey, you know what? I don't want to give my house away. I understand that. I completely understand it. But with the opportunity out there, right, with the price of land and the price of homes right now, if you can afford it, which, again, we say get with a good lender and get with a professional. But if you can afford it right now, what's going on is there's so much pressure on the low end in Ada County. I'm talking the 100, 150 range. They're just flying off the market. Well, it's just putting pressure. And what people don't understand is that pressure is an upwards push on 200, 300, 400, and on up in Ada County. And that's when you look at that in general, and we talk about what's going on, that's where you see this big jump, these spikes that I talk about, and say, in the next 12 to 18 months, I wouldn't be surprised to see a, 10, 12% little jump. I mean, they're up 6% from last year, with new construction. So, everything's changing. It's changing fast.
Chris, we've talked about the lack there of inventory right now, and I know Gerri's going to get into that more when we come back, but I mean, are we getting it? And I'm thinking back to like 2005 when you went, there wasn't a lot. I mean, there wasn't anything out there. Are you starting to get in that neighborhood, or where are you right now?
Well, yeah, and that's the thing is, I don't like the fact that we're sitting around 2,000 homes. We have 2,200 homes roughly in Ada County. When it was ripping hot, we had about 1,400 homes. And we should be moving up. Inventory levels should be rising. And there's a lot pending still, a lot of pending properties. But we're watching the number of, when you look at like new construction compared to resale properties, new construction was going crazy. Remember we talked about it a few weeks ago. Well, new construction pens are dropping. So inventory levels are dropping. Pendings are going way up in new inventory. And that means buyers are leaning over to buy new inventory. Well, these builders they can't catch up fast enough. Lending's an issue with speculation homes. So it's just kind of like a little quagmire out there of what's going on in the nutshell of Ada County.
We're going to take a time out. When we come back, Gerri Kelley, who is a client specialist with the Chris Lofthus Group, will join us, tell us a little bit about what she is seeing out there, what is going on. During the timeout, if you want to reach out to us, 350-6228, 350-6228, or you can click on chrislofthus.com. We hope you're having a fabulous Saturday on this Memorial Day weekend on the Chris Lofthus Show right after this timeout.